Hi, this is Emma from EdTech Emma, and in this Getting Started with Google for Education, I will be talking all about using Google Docs in the classroom. This video is all about how to use the basic features of Google Docs in your classroom. First thing we have to do is we have to navigate to Google Docs, and you can do this a couple of ways. I always like to show the little waffle tool in the top right-hand corner. Once you click that, you have all of your G Suite icons, and Google Docs is there. But what I usually do is I usually go to my Drive first, and I find the folder that I'd like to store the doc in. That just helps me stay organized. So I go to the starred folder called Demo Docs, and then I click my plus sign, and I can create a new Google Doc from here. If you've never used Google Docs before, the first thing you'll notice is it looks like a Word document. Google is not trying to reinvent the wheel here. They are trying to make the layout familiar and simple to use. So you have your fonts and your size and your formatting options like you're probably familiar with. What I'm going to show you today is the features and tools that go beyond a regular word processing document and make Google Docs kind of special and unique. So the first tool I want to show you is under this Tools tab, and it is the voice typing tool. This will allow me to dictate my text, and the computer will do its best to type that out for me. Awesome for students with special needs who either can't type or have dyslexia or trouble with typing. But all of my students love to use this tool. They thought it was really fun and cool, and teachers use it a lot to give feedback because it saves time. So when I open up my voice typing tool, it gives me a microphone, and it's not turned on yet. First, I have to choose the language I'd like to speak in. My computer defaults to English US, but you could change where you are speaking English, so you can get kind of more specific terminology and accent type English, or you can choose a whole host of other language to dictate to. I'll stick with English US, and when I click my microphone, I can start dictating my text to my computer, comma, and the computer will do its best to type it out for me, period. New paragraph. This saves a lot of time, comma, and it's a lot of fun, exclamation mark. That was pretty good. I don't actually see any errors here. What happens is your artificial intelligence in the microphone will get better and better the more you use it. So if it wrote something incorrectly or made a mistake and you correct that in your screen, it will learn for next time what you probably meant. So use the voice typing tool. It will get better and faster, and it can do punctuation and new paragraph and all of that cool stuff. You might be thinking, wow, this would be awesome to use with my English language learners as well, because instead of having to type into Google Translate, I could dictate a whole, bunch of instructions for them and then go into Google Translate. Google Docs actually saves you that step of going into Google Translate because under the Tools tab, you also have Translate Document. When I click this, I have those same lists of languages to choose, and I could go into Danish, Translate, and Google will make a copy of this document in my Drive, but translated through Google Translate into Danish. And unfortunately, I can't read Danish, so I'm not sure how good of a job it does. But again, the more you use it and correct it, the better and better it will get. The next thing I want to show you is the Explore tool. The Explore tool lives in the bottom right-hand corner, and it looks like this little text bubble with the star in the middle. When you see that star in Google Docs, it always means it's using artificial intelligence, and it'll use that artificial intelligence to try and help you in the best way it thinks it can. As an English teacher, what I would have my students do most of the time is they were writing short pieces of research-based writing. So in this scenario, let's say I was having my students do a short little piece of writing about a place. So I've written about Alaska, and we'll pretend I have more text than this. And then I might ask my students, use your Explore tool to find a quote that supports your piece of writing or 3 new facts. I can go in Google Docs down, click my Explore tool, and open in this sidebar, Google will do a little Google search based on whatever it thinks you're writing about in your paper. So I was obviously writing about Alaska, and it's saying, hey, it looks like you're writing about Alaska. here are some images, and here's some related research about your topic. When I click into that topic, you'll see the full Google search with the web and the images and even searching through my Drive. And I can go through here and look for a credible source. I'll skip Wikipedia for now. And maybe I want to go to alaska.org. I can click this and it'll open a new tab in my browser. And I can go through and I can find some research or a quote or whatever I'm looking for in here. And let's just say that this is a great quote I want to use as a student. I can copy that, go back into my document, use my quotation marks, paste that in there. Beautiful. Now, as honorable scholars, we always want to make sure we're citing our sources. And the Google Explore tool makes this so easy. So I used this source right here, the alaska.org. When I hover over it, you can see there are some quotation marks that appear in the top right. When I click that, you'll see a tiny little number 1 appear where my cursor was on the page. That's just indicating where I used that source. If I scroll to the bottom of my page, there's a fully formatted citation, and I can even choose which style citation I'd like from MLA, APA, and Chicago style. I was a teacher who swore I would never say when I was your age I had to, but when I saw this, I told my students when I was your age I had to memorize the order of citations and write them on note cards, and now it's so easy for them to cite their sources. And you can start bringing those conversations into earlier and earlier ages about why we cite our sources and academic honesty and those kind of things. So a really great tool. You can also insert images really quickly from here. So if I click images, I've got this great image. I just click the plus sign and it'll insert itself wherever that cursor is as well. And we can reformat just by dragging the corner. If you do this image search in the Explore tool, you'll notice that it's not as robust as a regular Google image search. And the reason for that is that these are all copyright-free images. They're all labeled for reuse. So you don't have to worry about any copyright images when you're using the Google Explore tool. But it also can invite that conversation into the classroom as well about copyright and why we need to use images labeled for reuse. So at this point in the writing process, I might ask my students to do some peer review or peer revision with each other. With Google Docs, again, they really try and make collaboration and communication the cornerstone of their philosophy and pedagogy. So in the top right, you see the share button. We click the share button. You have the option to type in somebody's name or email. If you are in a Google for Education domain, when you start typing in someone's name, it should auto-populate like this. So it'll be really easy for the students to share with each other quickly if they know each other's names. Then they have the option to choose some different sharing settings. So I can say, William can edit my document, which gives him full access, and he can delete everything and change everything. More likely, you're going to have your students be able to comment on each other's documents, which will track those changes so your student can decide which ones to accept and which ones to reject. And then they click send, an email will pop up in that student's inbox and it will allow them access to the document. If we were in commenting or suggesting mode, we looked at this in Google Classroom, but I'll show it again here. It'll track those changes and also give you a comment on the side right there. You could also just write a comment by highlighting a piece of text, and that comment bubble will appear on the right-hand side. I could say, that's great. Or you can right-click and find that comment bubble there as well. So we have a really great piece of work about Alaska that's had some peer review, and I've rejected that change. And I'm ready to save my document and want to make sure it's saved. Well, you'll notice that there's no file save in Google Docs, and that's because it's saving itself second by second in your Google Drive. It auto-saves. The great thing about that is, one, you're not likely to lose any work unless you go offline. But the other great thing is that Google makes a history of all these saves as well in something called version history. And you can see over here where it says all changes saved in Drive. When I click open into that, my sidebar now turns into something called version history, and it shows me a little history of all the work that I've done and all the different iterations and changes that have been made to that document. If you're a classroom teacher, you probably can instantly see the potential of this. So if a student comes in and says, I worked on this for 2 hours last night and it accidentally got all deleted, you'd be able to go into version history and you can see the times and the amount of work that was actually put in. This is also really great for group work, because if you have a group member saying that they did more work than another group member, you would also see the different names with their colored icon, and you can see what work they actually put into this document. The last thing I'll mention in Google Docs is a lot of times what we're used to doing in Google Docs is we're used to making posters or worksheets in a Google Doc. You can insert a table, and sometimes if I'm doing something really quick, I'll just insert a table and say, you know, this is for a poster or a worksheet, right? And you'd like somebody to type their text on that side. You can do this if you want to make something really quick, but I would recommend that if you're trying to make a poster, you use a tool like Google Slides, Google Drawing, or Jamboard are much better. You don't have insert text box in Google Docs, and you have less kind of functionality to drag and drop things around in Google Docs. So I definitely recommend watching one of these videos and figuring out how to do that there. And if you're using a worksheet, similarly, Slides is really good for worksheets, and Google Forms as well would be a better choice. Leave Google Docs as a word processing document for writing and projects like that.